Well, just some threads together. So it was emotional for me, and I had just was thinking about you all, and then you lost your home, and so
Right.
that was a whole thing with all the emotions, and so it was something that well, my films are about nostalgia, memories,
Mm-hmm.
time capsules, and parallel universes and things. You can see how those themes fit together. They're all part of the same body of different things. And so for me, I already am interested in those themes, and I have a lot of nostalgia associated with being here on Mount Veeder. And so, and then, those topics also relate to Alzheimer's. My dad has Alzheimer's. So they all kind of coalesce into this really interesting web of topics that are important to me. Um, and so for me, the fire also represented a fire coming in a place that was my childhood home. And so it had that added element of sadness and fear and whatnot. Um, and so, as soon as I was able to get through some of the roads, I came up and it was just, and I did kind of cross the creek and see that, of course, that structure wasn't there anymore, so that could not have been burned down, but other things I sensed might have been
Oh
hit,
yeah,
the Aldana's
the
property.
fifth wheel burned and
Yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah.
other things.
And so it was just, there's something about
Mm.
a place that's so meaningful when I mean, I would walk around the land out here and I would collect rocks and twigs and different kinds of stuff, and I would put them into a box and I would send them to you in Phoenix, Arizona,
Mm.
because I wanted to send what I thought were treasures, And to me, they really were treasures. And because you knew that to me they were treasures, you felt they were treasures too. You would get them, and you told me once that you cried when you got my little box of Mount Veeder treasures.
That's so special.
Isn't that special?
That is very
Yeah,
special.
yeah. And so it was a special thing, and he would send little letters back like, "I hope you're all well up there and up in the woods, and Skip and Barbara, and thank you for the rocks." I would get leaves with little trails on them from the
Oh.
worms,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And so
How old were you then?
I was age 5 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Terry must have been about age 4 through 9, and I may be off plus or minus, in terms of exact dates. But that's about how old we were.
Did you go down to Burns Valley School?
Well, what we did is we created our own school called
Oh.
Silver Pony.
Right, so we
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's right, Silver Pony, and that
With
was
Barbara.
beyond.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
Skip and Barbara, my mom,
Mhm.
and other folks that were part of our community
Right.
created this what we'll call it a Waldorf Montessori inspired
Yeah.
kind of school,
Right.
back to the land kind of school.
Yeah, it was a good school.
It was a wonderful school.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Mm.
Well,
And
Barbara was really, they were all great teachers.
oh
So
yeah,
you had
oh,
good people to work with. It was really,
they were special. Skip had taught at Silverado, I think. Barbara had taught before.
yeah.
And my mom had done some
Are
science
you
lessons.
in touch with Barbara?
No, no, she's probably off in Hawaii with her. Perhaps still, if I don't know if she's still alive, but if she is, she's probably still connected with her guru.
Yes, she
I'm just guessing. It's just literally we don't know.
Mhm.
They were going to give that land to
I
you.
know. They were gonna gift that to Adida.
Oh, God, thank goodness.
Yeah, that was a
It didn't
thing.
happen.
Yeah, I was really glad that didn't happen. And then we that's when we went to Berkeley, and Skip and Barbara followed this guru named Adida. Um, so it was a very nostalgic childhood and some very happy years. Of course, I missed Dad because he was in Arizona.
Yeah,
But
that's,
we'd drive to SFO and fly to Phoenix, and we'd see you,
Yeah.
and he'd be like, he'd say the equivalent of, "How are my mountain kids, my hippie mountain kids,
You were a mountain kid.
mountain
You
kids."
were the son
Yeah.
that was living from the land,
Oh yeah.
it was really a special time.
Oh yeah. You
You
know.
remember the pod that I
Of
built,
course.
and then Mike,
Michael Byers.
Mike and Judith Selby and Mike Luttrell.
I vaguely remember
Remember
them.
them? 'Cause
Yeah.
they built one here,
Oh.
pod here, and lived here on the land they had a grand piano in
yes.
the downstairs in the in this pod that they built.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was finally it deteriorated to the point I had to tear it down.
Yeah.
But it was there for, it was right across, right through there in that space.
It was.
This geodesic pod.
Yeah.
So that's what we had, and I built one over on the other side,
I remember those vividly. There are pictures of those pods in Dad's storage place in the back room of his house in Phoenix. I mean, he has those pictures, and they're still there. And we had overalls and had that kind of clothes associated with the hippies or the Back to the Land movement.
right.
You know, you're my age, 51, so you know that like that time was like the 70s, and it was liberal, progressive politics and Back to the Land and this kind of thing. And that's what my mom chose. My dad wanted to take a different road, but he was aware that his first wife chose this kind of back to the land, free to be you and me kind of thing. There's a land that I
What
know.
people, singing, this is
Children are free. Yeah.
Toronto reminds some of that. She went to UC Santa Cruz.
Well, there you go.
Lived in Occidental.
Well, that's definitely.
That's hippie land.
Yeah, certainly. Sebastopol and those areas.
That's right.
Santa Cruz must have been a wonderful place to.
Well, there were only
to-
about 1,500, 2,000 of us, so
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
But I taught in Monterey for 11 years,
Monterey.
in the height of what you'd call the hippie.
The hippie movement. Yeah.
So that was quite exciting.
I can
It was
imagine.
quite unique.
I can
Yeah.
imagine. I can
Very
imagine.
creative
Yeah.
parents. And
What did you teach?
I taught kindergarten through third grade
Oh.
at elementary school, and kindergarten through eighth grade for the Monterey district, which went up to Russian Gulch and out to, well, did go out to the ocean. So
I see.
yeah, so it was a very unique time.
I stole her.
It
Yeah,
was
very
When,
unique.
when she moved over here, people cried.
Really?
Cried because
Oh.
they said, "Oh, what
It's
did
a
you
close
do?
knit
My-
community,
my
not
kid's
close knit,
teacher."
but everybody knows.
They know it. It's a
everybody.
close. Yeah.
They,
You
they,
know.
seriously,
Yes,
I was at the graduation when she announced it, and
Oh.
they cried.
Oh, I can
"Oh,
imagine.
don't leave us." And so, anyway.
But
But the people over here love her so.
Oh,
As an educational specialist.
of course.
so it all worked out. But that was a fun time. Let me tell you, that was definitely
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um,
Well, it's interesting because I'm remembering little pieces and threads of your story and both being teachers and whatnot. I actually, I like making connections and different, but you studied psychology and then taught psychology for many years. Well, you majored in psychology yourself at University of
Wow.
Connecticut.
Well, did
And,
you teach or
No, I was a student.
Yeah.
you student? Did you practice in the field of psychology?
No.
No.
No, but he did go to grad school at Long Beach State for a couple years in some kind of an organizational psychology master's program, and there was a little bit of he was actually in a literature, an English and psychology double major at UConn, and he was in 12 Shakespeare plays,
Wow.
and Twelfth Night and Richard III and Henry IV. And
Did you teach it all? Or
I don't think you
didn't
did. Well, you may not remember this, but you actually did teach one semester as a TA at Long Beach State, and it was a class on psychology and relationships. But it was like a TA role, so you're not quite a professor, but you're kind of helping out in the background as an aid.
Teaching anybody.
Yeah, so
Sharing knowledge. as a
6
teacher.
months, 6 months of teaching,
Yeah.
but 30 or 35 years, or perhaps even more. How many years did you teach psychology?
We
Or
had 30,000 students.
what? Are you kidding me? You had 30,000 students over a period of many, many years.
39
Oh my God.
40 years.
Oh my God. Every year there's a new group that goes into that
Sure.
psychology course.
And
And
I had the peer support and
Oh,
all those other
I could
programs.
cry. I could just hearing that. It's just
Yeah,
touching.
I started peer support programs in the area, and community service programs,
Oh, of
and
course. Of course.
psychology, and so anyway, so I taught a bunch of different things.
Just ask Joel.
So,
Yeah, just ask. Just
it's
ask.
funny. No matter where I go, I seem to run into a student.
Well, yeah, isn't that amazing? Someone that was connected to you with your audiology. I mean, I got to say that I did have the thought that there's a chance that they know each other, but probably not. But when I think about audiology and Lily of the Valley and education and whatnot,